Xianxia stood up and lightly smiled. He is from the Great Strength clan. The martial arts of the Demon Subduing Academy are not suitable for him, so there is no use for him to stay here longer. My name is Chen Liguang. Shall we make a friend? Of course. I'm glad to meet you. Xianxia faintly smiled. It would not be that boring with someone who could talk with him. Chen Liguang sat beside Xianxia and chatted with him for a while. After that, Xianxia learned that he wasn't from the mortal martial realm, but from a mortal world called the Blue Fire World, in which there was a huge sea of blue fire and a huge river filled with formidable blue flames. People who cultivated flames could strengthen themselves with the blue fire. This broadened Xianxia's horizons, making him look forward to traveling in other worlds even more. Now that he knew that the Demon Subduing Academy traveled back and forth in many different worlds, at the same time, it also happened to recruit a few students from each world, such as Chen Liguang, who entered the spiritual martial realm and passed the exam of the Demon Subduing Academy to get recruited. However, at that time, the Demon Subduing Academy was about to head to another world, so he followed and came here. The people in the top 10s of the Demon Subduing Board have all left their own world for a long time. In order to strengthen themselves, most of them have decided not to return to their own world, but to follow the Demon Subduing Academy forever. In the future, even if they ascend into the heaven realm, they will most likely be grouped into the Demon Suppression God Shrine. Chen Liguang said. Chen Liguang was a warrior at the late stage of the spiritual martial realm. He had been in the academy for a long time, so he knew a lot of things about this place. Wow, you are the famous Xianxia, ain't you? How come you hang out with a pauper from the Blue Fire World? Isn't this lowering your own status? A handsome young man with a black fan and a set of black finery embroidered with gold walked in as he mocked and ridiculed. Chen Liguang's expression only slightly changed for a moment, but he quickly recovered. Xianxia did not feel anything for a moment, so he chose to ignore that man like Chen Liguang did. Humph, as expected of someone who has the same bad taste. Only someone like Chen Liguang would hand out with Xianxia. The well-dressed man opened his eyes and sneered. Don't think that you are formidable just by defeating a bloody saber-teethed tiger. I can beat that beast to death with a single fan. The hall was already filled with 100 people. The others remained silent as they watched the well-dressed man making fun of Xianxia and Chen Liguang. Don't go too far. I don't think I've offended you. Xianxia slammed his hand on the table and stood up abruptly. With a stern look in his eyes, he said with an ice-cold voice, Lu Xiong, be careful. If you want to cause trouble, it's best if you're outside the college. At this time, all of the students stood up and saw a white-haired, hunchbacked old man slowly walking in with a cane. This old man did not look good, but when his strict gaze swept over, every single one of the students did not even dare to breathe. That fierce aura intimidated everyone. The well-dressed man was extremely afraid of this old man and quickly returned to his seat. Xianxia knew that this hunchbacked old man was the strictest teacher that Chen Liguang had mentioned earlier. His name was Yu Baixiang, a man who had cultivated to the 7th level of demon subduing force and passed the 6 nirvana tribulations. Such a person would be able to establish his own sect and become headmaster on every continent of the mortal realm, but now he was teaching martial arts to a group of little guys. Those who have trained to the 2nd level of demon subduing force, stand up. Yu Baixiang scanned over the 100 young men with his eyes that were filled with momentum. However, no one stood up, which showed how difficult it was to cultivate on the 2nd level. There were many warriors who had been in there for a long time, and none of them were from the mortal martial realm. Yu Baixiang grunted in disdain, then said, Those who have cultivated to the 1st level, stand up. There were only 20 people who stood up, including the man called Lu Xiong who previously provoked Xianxia. Chen Liguang, who was beside Xianxia, also stood up. It's still the same. How disappointing. Yu Baixiang shook his head and continued. No matter which level you have reached, or you haven't reached anyone, you must listen carefully to my explanation. Don't worry, I'll start from the beginning and stop at the 2nd level. Anyway, there's no one among you who has cultivated to the 2nd level. Xianxia now understood why Leng Yulan was always complaining about learning the demon fighting force. It was because she spent most of her time listening to this boring explanation. Furthermore, it was the same every day. Yu Baixiang stood there. After seeing everyone's serious faces, he slowly said, "If you want to control the demon-subduing force, you have to first crush your true qi and master the circulation of it within your body. After that, you have to turn your true qi into a power that can deal fatal damage to demons through a mental cultivation method. Therefore, you must first have a good flesh body. You must remember that." Following that, Yu Baixiang patiently explained every part of the chant and every confusing part of it repetitively. His words made Xianxia fall into a trance. Although he could understand it by himself, now he understood it better as there was someone guiding him and sharing his experience, leaving him a lot of benefit from it. However, this was not the case for the others. Although their faces were full of seriousness, their eyes were filled with helplessness, because some of them had heard about it many times. The reason why they were unable to cultivate it laid on their insufficient perception, flesh body and true qi. The demon-subduing force demanded extremely high on users' ability of circulating their true qi. They must be able to condense their true qi into threads of qi that were even thinner than hair, then circulate them within their bodies. After that, they must circulate their true qi according to the profound mental cultivation method, allowing it to rush out of the body. At that moment, the true qi itself would explode waves of sounds, and the demon-subduing force would explode out with it. Very quickly, half a day had passed that the lecturer explained 2 levels of the demon-subduing force. Tomorrow, the teachers would instruct the other kinds of martial arts. After Yu Baixiang finished speaking, he left with a disappointed look in his eyes. "Brother Qian, why does he hate you so much?" Chun Xiang took an eye on Lu Xiong and asked. In the meanwhile, Lu Xiong was surrounded by many people who dressed extravagantly, just like emperors. "It's because I don't want to teach him my blue fire chant." The blue fire chant is a powerful mental martial art that can cultivate blue fire souls. But the training conditions are very harsh. I can only cultivate by luck, and this is an exclusive art of my sect, so I can't teach it to others. Qian Liguang sighed. Chun Xiang and Su Meiyao couldn't help but be shocked. There was actually such a martial art that allowed people to cultivate fire souls. This was indeed something that was highly sought after. He is ranked 79th on the demon-subduing board. Thus many people curry favor with him, Qian Liguang added. Chun Xiang never thought that there would be a person on the demon-subduing board who would be in the same college as him. Furthermore, this person was from another world. When Lu Xiong saw Chun Xiang and Qian Liguang discussing him, he felt extremely displeased. He sneered, "Talking about others behind their backs seems like something only a woman can do. You better be honest with your word, or don't blame me for doing something bad." Chun Xiang coldly snorted, "We didn't say the name, so even if we are talking about a dog, it has nothing to do with you." Facing this kind of self-righteous tyrants, Chun Xiang was never afraid of provoking them. The other side was overbearing and he definitely could not tolerate it. Qian Liguang was slightly shocked as he heard Chun Xiang's words. He sighed helplessly in his heart. Seeing Chun Xiang's imposing manner, he knew that there was a huge difference between Chun Xiang and him. Of course, he didn't dare to resist Lu Xiong, because he had too many concerns. However, Chun Xiang had nothing to worry about. At most, he would just leave the academy. He definitely would not stay here feeling aggrieved just because he wanted to learn a few martial arts. "What did you mean by that?" Lu Xiong's eyes revealed an ominous glint as he stood up abruptly. He glared at Chun Xiang and coldly asked, "I said, even if we talk about a dog, it has nothing to do with you. What are you reacting to so much for?" "You're not a dog." Chun Xiang laughed. Lu Xiong was enraged. Although he knew that it was him who acted rudely, Chun Xiang's words were ear-piercing to him, as if he was deliberately challenging Lu Xiong's prestige. Lu Xiong was still on the devil-subduing board, and after staying in the academy for so long, this was the first time someone had provoked him like this. The classroom became extremely quiet, because right now no one else could interrupt. Chun Xiang stood up and said, "Brother Qian, let's go out for a walk. I feel really uncomfortable being with this guy." As he shoot his words, Chun Xiang walked towards the door, but was stopped by Lu Xiong. Lu Xiong's expression was sinister as he sternly said, Xianxia, no one has ever dared to oppose me like this. No matter how powerful you are in the mortal martial realm, if you come here, then be honest. This place doesn't allow you to be so arrogant. Xianxia coldly laughed. What makes you say these words to me? Also, I don't think I'm the one who's arrogant. From the start, it's all because of your overbearing attitude. This is my territory. You can refuse to submit to me, but you must respect me. Lu Xiong stared at Xianxia as a surge of true qi gushed out from his body. Xianxia suddenly laughed out loud. He never thought that he would happen to meet someone with such a strong desire of power in the demon-subduing academy. Lu Xiong was afraid that Xianxia would affect his position in the college, in which he was the top one among over 100 people and was respected by them. This satisfied his vanity, so no matter who came here, they must be respectful to him. Otherwise, they would be isolated and hated. What are you laughing at? Lu Xiong clenched his fist tightly, letting out a crisp sound. You make me feel like I've stepped into a dog's territory. While the dog is barking and afraid that others will snatch shit from it, Xianxia laughed out loud. This was indeed very funny, but no one dared to laugh. Lu Xiong was so enraged by Xianxia that his face turned red. I am going to kill you. Lu Xiong roared and ferociously punched at Xianxia's head. At the same time, a thunderous explosion rang out. It was precisely the demon-subduing force. As a crisp sound rang out, Xianxia immediately felt the terrifying fist power shooting towards his chest like an arrow, as if it was going to pierce through his heart. Lu Xiong was in the late stage of spiritual martial realm, while Xianxia was only in the early stage. So Lu Xiong was 2 levels higher than Xianxia in cultivation, and his true qi was also extremely thick, as well as the demon-subduing force he released that carried a mana like that of the demon suppression qi. The other party was so powerful that Xianxia couldn't help but dodge to the side in a hurry. This made people sigh in admiration, but the demon-subduing force hit a table and turned it into dust. The power was of the demon-subduing force indeed very strong, and those who had not learned it were filled with envy. Lu Xiong did not expect that Xianxia could dodge his attack so easily. No matter what, he had to give Xianxia a painful lesson. It wasn't the first time he was punished by the demon-subduing academy for bullying others, but he knew that he was on the demon-subduing board, so the punishment he received wouldn't be too heavy. However, Xianxia would be seriously injured because of his attack. After Xianxia dodged to the side, he put his 5 fingers together and released flames. Then he suddenly opened them, like an eagle's talon, while the hot gas around his body raised up and poured into the fire claw. He suddenly covered it like a falcon swooping down from the sky to scratch its prey. This was the vermilion bird claw, a martial skill that carried a terrifying attacking power. It carried a blazing flame and a powerful force that could break the Vajra body. That attack was accompanied by the heaven and earth fire, as well true qi that burst forth and heat surged in all directions. The ground trembled slightly, and with a dense killing intent and the might of lightning, it clawed over like a hot knife cutting through bamboo. No one expected that Xianxia would be able to take such a fatal attack. When Lu Xiong attacked Xianxia, he thought that Xianxia would be intimidated by his demon-fighting power. However, he didn't know that Xianxia had been waiting for an opportunity to attack him. Lu Xiong was unable to dodge when the claw reached him, because Xianxia was too close to him, causing his upper body to be enveloped by the huge fire claw. Xianxia hit on Lu Xiong in one go. Then a formidable fire bursted out and exploded waves of heat that made people sweat. However, Xianxia did not end his attack. Instead, he became even fiercer, and both of his palms suddenly struck out with a force that was like a hot knife cutting through bamboo. The air was shaken until it let out a crackling sound, and his palm was like a trillion-pound hammer, fiercely smashing against the burning Lu Xiong. The heaven-shaking palm. Xianxia's attack consisted of not only 2 strikes, but hundreds of them, and all of those happened in an instant. Countless palm shadows fiercely smashed into Lu Xiong's body, causing the ground to violently shake, and breaking Lu Xiong's protective true qi barrier. The vibrating power was like 10,000 horses galloping and rushing into Lu Xiong's body, breaking his meridians inch by inch. Lu Xiong gave a pitiful cry. His black robe was shattered into pieces, and his body was sent flying and crashed to the wall. Xianxia used the vermilion bird claw and hundreds of palms in just a short moment. But Lu Xiong was severely injured, which showed how heavy Xianxia's attacks were. Humph, you actually dare to claim supremacy here with just this little bit of skill. Are people on the demon subduing board that bad? Xianxia snorted. Lu Xiong wasn't prepared because he didn't expect Xianxia to have the guts to attack him so heavily, and even attacked him one after another. Lying on the ground, Lu Xiong was so injured that he was unable to speak. I was wondering who it was. It's Xianxia again. A cold and sinister voice sounded. Xianxia was extremely raged as he heard the voice. He would never forget that. It was the voice of Liao Xiaoyun from the true martial sect. He would never forget that scene that Liao Xiaoyun stepped on his head, robbed his life taking demon crossbow, and how he insulted him. The scene of Liao Xiaoyun trampling on his dignity was as if it happened yesterday. He was furious to the extreme. He always wanted to kill this number one expert of the true martial sect to wash away his shame. However, Xianxia knew that he still had to endure because his strength was far inferior to that of Liao Xiaoyun. However, he was convinced that as long as he had the time, he could definitely trample on this person who hurt his dignity. Liao Xiaoyun was at the 100 refinement realm, the pinnacle of the extreme martial realm. Furthermore, he was very young, so it wouldn't be strange for him to appear here. Behind Liao Xiaoyun was a short, skinny, and vigorous youth who looked to be around 16 or 17 years old. Although his appearance was ordinary, the true chi fluctuations emitted by him were extremely threatening. Zhong Quan. Some people are fighting here. Hurry up, go and take them down. Liao Xiaoyun smiled coldly and said to the youth behind him. The youth Zhong Quan suddenly disappeared as he flashed his eyesights. Xianxia, who had been on alert, suddenly felt a heavy blow on his back, and a wave of violent energy surged into his body before exploding. At this moment, he only felt thunder and lightning in his body. It was the first he saw such a horrible power of thunder. Xianxia felt a sweet taste in his throat as blood gushed out from his mouth. The moment he was struck heavily, he felt as if all the meridians in his body were exploding. All of his organs were seriously injured, just like being attacked by thunders. It should be noted that he had the black tortoise armament armor to protect his body, and his body was very strong. However, he was severely injured by someone's fist right now. This showed how terrifying the person who attacked him was. Although the youth called Zhong Quan was expressionless, he was secretly shocked in his heart. He predicted that his fist would be able to knock Xianxia half to death and make him faint on the ground, but Xianxia was still able to stand. Seeing that scene, Zhong Quan's palm was like a blade as it chopped down like lightning. His strength was extremely violent, and it seemed like he was about to kill Xianxia. In that split second, a white light shot out and struck Zhong Quan's body, causing him to take a few steps back, and his violent strike also missed. Young man, don't be so ruthless. This voice was from the hunchback teacher, Yu Baixiang. His hawk-like eyes stared at Zhong Quan, while his face was filled with rage. Xianxia hurriedly took out a hell Ganoderma and ate it. At the same time, he angrily glared at Liao Xiaoyun and Zhong Quan. Go to the Chancellor and explain everything clearly. Yu Baixiang turned and walked out. Liao Xiaoyun coldly looked at Xianxia with a face full of complacency, while Zhong Quan sneered at Xianxia and said, "With such strength, how dare you call yourself the number one expert of the mortal martial realm?" Xianxia frowned and suddenly wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. His heart was burning with anger. Zhong Quan, I will remember your punch, Xianxia said in a deep voice as he lifted the unconscious Lu Xiong and followed behind Yu Baixiang. Zhong Quan looked like a young man, but his strength was such formidable. Xianxia guessed that Zhong Quan was at least at the soul martial realm, but he was not afraid. As long as he was given the time, he would be able to step on Zhong Quan and ruthlessly ravage him. On their way to the Chancellor, Xianxia learned from other passers-by that Liao Xiaoyun had quite a high position in the academy and was responsible for managing some trivial matters. For example, If someone was discovered to violate the Academy's rules, he would have the right to intervene. Chancellor Chun Xiang and Lu Xiong violated the Academy's rules. They fought in a forbidden area, and after Chun Xiang injured Lu Xiong, he even planned on killing Lu Xiong with hatred. That's why I let Zhong Quan injure him. This is my responsibility. Liao Xiaoyun spoke with a clear voice. Chun Xiang clenched his fist and shouted, "That's not the truth. Lu Xiong attacked me first, so I had no choice but to retaliate in order to protect myself. After I did not plan to kill after knocking him out." Liao Xiaoyun only sneered. "Do you think I would lie to the Chancellor?" As the Chancellor, Zhao Tao was most annoyed by such issues. He stroked his long beard and said, "Chun Xiang, since you took a too heavy action, I punish you to stay in the cave in the back mountain to think for a month. After Lu Xiong recovers, I will definitely punish him heavily." Discontented, Chun Xiang angrily asked, "What about him? He also attacked me heavily. If not for Teacher Yu's help, you would probably only be able to see my corpse." After finishing his words, his eyes flashed with killing intent as he glared at Liao Xiaoyun and Zhong Quan. He swore in his heart that if he didn't kill these two, he wouldn't be a man. Following the fury in Chun Xiang's heart, his killing intent crazily vibrated. Waves of killing intent surged out from his body and filled the entire hall, making people feel as if they were in a place of death. The cold killing intent made even old fellows like Zhao Tao and Yu Baixiang feel fear. Chun Xiang's killing intent was extremely heavy. Liao Xiaoyun frowned. He couldn't understand why Chun Xiang would have such a strong killing intent. This made him feel threatened. Zhong Quan was the same. He tightly clenched his fists and waited to take actions. "Stay humble," Zhao Tao shouted. Chun Xiang lightly sucked in a breath to calm himself down. He had already decided that once he had enough strength, he would first kill Zhong Quan and then escape from the demon-subduing academy. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to swallow his anger. "Come with me." Yu Baixiang knew how Chun Xiang was feeling. As a teacher, he knew Lu Xiong very well. Chun Xiang was right, but Liao Xiaoyun had his reasons. Besides, Lu Xiong was the first to act, and the Chancellor had already given his words to grant a severe punishment. Chun Xiang was extremely grateful of this hunchbacked old man. If the old man did not take in, he would definitely have been injured even more severely. Now he knew that only by making his fists harder would he not be bullied. Chun Xiang followed Yu Baixiang to a mountain behind the demon-subduing academy. There were some caves on it. "Get inside those caves. After you get in, I will activate the formation so that no one can get in or out," Yu Baixiang said coldly. Chun Xiang nodded. "Thank you for saving me, Mr. Yu. There's no need to thank me. I'm a teacher, so I naturally have to stop students from fighting," Yu Baixiang said. Chun Xiang did not enter the cave. Instead, he continued to ask, "Mr. Yu, how can I defeat Zhong Quan within a month?" Hearing Chun Xiang's question, Yu Baixiang didn't find it strange. He immediately replied, "That's impossible. Zhong Quan is 17 years old now. He is born with a thunder soul, which is as rare as fire soul. With the thunder soul in his body, Zhong Quan could cultivate his true qi quickly and release very powerful lightning attributed force. He is already in the early stage of the soul martial realm. You are only at the early stage of the spiritual martial realm, ain't you? Thunder soul." Chun Xiang had also heard of such a thing. It was a type of martial soul like fire soul. It was something that could make a martial artist extremely strong. Chun Xiang now understood why Zhong Quan's lightning energy was so formidable. It is actually impossible but theoretically possible. You just need to learn the demon-subduing force within a month and train it to the 10th level. "Well, I've been cultivating the demon-subduing force for thousands of years, but I still can't reach the 10th level, so you won't be able to reach it even within a month." Chun Xiang clenched his fist. He was excited in his heart. Others could not do that, but he could because he had a very solid foundation. With a leap, he jumped into the cave above. Yu Baixiang waved his hand to activate the formation and left. Inside the cave, there was only a dark and damp stone room. Although there were seats and chairs, they were all made of stone, but they were still quite clean. Zhongquan, Liao Xiaoyun. I will kill both of you with my own hands. Xianxia swallowed another piece of Hellganoderma and circulated the medicinal energy in his body to heal his wounds. If you choose a place devoid of people, you would have a 50% chance to get rid of Zhongquan with your demon arts and Shui's power. As for Liao Xiaoyun, it would be very difficult. He is a person who is about to enter the Nirvana realm. Your strength is far inferior to his. Bai Yuyu said. She hadn't been together with Xiang for a day or two, so she could feel the fury in Xiang's heart. Xiang said, I must kill Zhongquan in front of so many people in the Demon Subduing Academy. Otherwise, it will be difficult for me to vent the anger in my heart. After his words, he opened the book of Demon Subduing Force and began to recite the chant. Seeing that Xiang was so determined, Su Meiyao and Bai Yuyu did not disturb him. When Xiang recited the chant, they also silently memorized it. They also felt that this demon subduing force was very hard to learn, even though the two of them had a deep foundation in martial arts. However, the two of them had never learned the Tai Chi dragon subduing technique or the evil suppressing divine technique. Thus, the demon subduing force was much more simple for Xiang. He only used 4 hours to memorize the mantra of the demon force and then started to practice it. He chanted the mnemonic chant while controlling the flow of true qi and circulating it a few times in his body to generate a powerful force. With a pump sound, Xiang threw a punch. However, the force did not shoot out, but exploded on his fist, causing his fist to be in extreme pain. I didn't control my power well, and I was in too much of a hurry. Xiang quickly understood what was wrong with him and started from the beginning. When he first condensed the demon subduing force, it was very slow and would take a period of time. However, when he became familiar with it, he would be able to instantly release it. Seeing that Xiang had only studied it for a short period but already managed to master half of the technique, Su Meiyao and Bai Yuyu were both a little surprised. They felt that if it was them, it would take at least a long time to learn the first level. The demon subduing force should come from the heavenly realm. Such kind of martial arts can be considered very powerful even in the heavenly realm, especially when used to deal with demons and goblins. Su Meiyao said. Although they didn't have much power at the moment, they still had a certain amount of true qi in their bodies, so they could also learn it. Bai Yu nodded. The demon subduing power can restrain demon essence. Once a demon gets struck by it, the demon essence in its body will certainly shatter. Xiang did not know why, but the demon subduing force seemed to be very simple for him. He could understand it just by thinking consciously about it. Furthermore, it was not difficult to practice it and he could do as he wished. However, he was still not very familiar with it. Maybe this is because of the devil suppression divine technique, which is also a very powerful divine art. The demon subduing force is very likely created from the devil suppression divine technique. Su Meiyao could only explain in this way. Xiang had already mastered the devil suppression divine technique, so any martial arts related to the demon suppression divine technique would become very simple in his eyes. Humph! Xiang grunted and threw out a punch. With a pala sound, it was as if a bolt of lightning had struck down. However, the sound was rather soft. An invisible force hit a rock on the table and turned it into dust. He only tried twice before succeeding, but he was still not very familiar with it. It is indeed powerful. I only used a small amount of true qi a moment ago, but it was already able to create such a huge impact. Xiang said with an astonishment. Under normal circumstances, he would at most shatter the rock with that amount of true qi, not able to shatter it into dust. If I learned to the 10th level, I could definitely defeat Zhongquan, Xiang said with excitement and continued practicing. After he familiarized himself with the first level, he would be able to learn the second level. If others were to find out, they would definitely look at him like a monster because many people had been learning for a long time or even a few years, but he could already make the first sound with his demon subduing force in just a few hours, and there would be 10 rings if he reached the 10th level. A day had passed. Xiang's palms danced wildly as thunderous explosions rang out. He was now able to instantly release his demon subduing force, but only of the first level. Brother, which cave are you in? Dear Xiang, quickly come out. Suddenly, Lung Yulan and Xianxia's voice came from outside. Chun Xiang hurriedly walked out of the stone room and came to the entrance of the cave. He shouted down, "I'm here. Don't worry about me. I'll be able to leave in a month." Seeing Chun Xiang being locked in such a cave, Lung Yulan was filled with rage. "Brother, I'll go chop that bastard Lu Xiong into pieces. How could him make you be locked here? And Zhong Quan as well. I've always wanted to kill him." After Lung Yulan and the Xianxia found out that Chun Xiang had been locked up, they immediately inquired about the situation. After they found out what had happened, they were infuriated. It was very clearly that Chun Xiang was set up by Liao Xiaoyun with his private power. "Xianxia, look after her. Don't let her mess around. I can solve this myself," Chun Xiang lightly said. Xianxia sighed and nodded. Seeing Chun Xiang so confident, Xianxia didn't say anything more. "Don't worry. I'll keep an eye on her. Are you used to live in this place?" Xianxia asked. "It's nothing. I've stayed in places worse than this, and it's even been a year or two." Chun Xiang smiled. The time he spent with Huang Jintian was something he would never be able to forget for the rest of his life. "After you guys go back, you need to learn the demon's subduing force consciously. I believe you guys should be able to learn the first level very soon." Chun Xiang enjoined. He had already mastered the first level and knew how powerful it was. Lung Yulan snorted and said, "Brother, after you come out, do you want to find Zhong Quan by yourself? If you cooperate with me, we'll definitely be able to get rid of him with ease. Yulan, listen up. Later on, you'll have plenty of opportunities to fight alongside your brother. Right now, you have to learn those martial arts well. At the time of the Great War of the Three Realms, I will kill all the demons and goblins with you." Chun Xiang comforted her. Lung Yulan nodded. Then she asked Chun Xiang a few more questions with concern, and left with Xianxia. If it wasn't for Xianxia's company, Lung Yulan would have already gone to find Zhong Quan. Therefore, Chun Xiang was completely at ease. "Now, I am going to learn the second level. I must learn to the 10th level within a month." Currently, Chun Xiang was also looking forward to the strength of the 10th level. He was already impatient to see just how powerful the 10th level demon subduing force would be. Even though Chun Xiang was locked up, he was able to heavily injure and stun a person on the demon subduing board. Such kind of valiant strength gave people goosebumps because Chun Xiang was a person who had just entered the extreme realm. Of course, Zhong Quan's strength was the most amazing. He was only 17 years old, but he was already called the world's #1 young martial expert. Since Chun Xiang was locked up here, Xianxia and Lung Yulan were worried that he would be bored, so they came to talk to him every night. This made Chun Xiang feel warm in his heart. In just 10 days, Chun Xiang had already learned to the 4th level. If this were to be revealed, no one would believe it. The first level of demon subduing force consumes very little true qi but can produce a great power. The second level is the same, but it will consume a lot after reaching the 3rd and 4th level. My current true qi only allows me to us it 1,000 times in a row at most, Chun Xiang said. Both Long Yulan and Xianxia got aware that Chun Xiang had reached the 4th level. They already knew that Chun Xiang was not simple. Right now, they were looking forward to seeing what Chun Xiang would be like after he reached the 10th level. When the time came, Chun Xiang would definitely went find Zhong Quan to take revenge. "I have indeed consumed a lot of energy. Seems like we have to train our true qi more vigorously," Xianxia said. Both she and Lung Yulan had secretly learned the 1st level. This was because they had started cultivating the Tai Chi divine technique, so it was relatively easy for them to learn the demon subduing force. Chun Xiang nodded his head. "Let's end it here today. You guys can go back first." It was already dark. After saying goodbye to Chun Xiang, Xianxia and Lung Yulan hurriedly left. As for Chun Xiang, he continued to train his demon subduing force. He guessed that the higher level he reached, the more energy he would consume to cultivate the demon subduing force. He estimated that he would only be able to use the 10th level of the demon subduing force 10 times at most. If he used the heaven-shaking palm or dragon-slaying slash, he could perform hundreds or even thousands of techniques in a row. However, he couldn't use the demon subduing force for so many times, which indicated that the power of demon subduing force was much stronger than his other techniques. Very quickly, it was time for the holidays. Every time, Leng Yulan and Xianxia would stay for a relatively long period of time during the break. "Brother, I want to accompany you into the cave. Aren't you bored staying inside by yourself?" Leng Yulan said in a distressed tone. Seeing her so concerned for him, Xianxia laughed and said, "Yulan, it's only been a month. It's going to be over soon. When I come out, I'll let you see how I'll treat that guy." Yulan said that without you, she wouldn't be able to sleep. Xianxia laughed. "I'm used to embracing brother to bed now." Leng Yulan muttered something, causing Xianxia to giggle. He had only slept with Leng Yulan for a few nights, but she had already latched on to him. "Why don't you say you want to sleep with me?" Xianxia intentionally got jealous. "No, not at all. It's very comfortable sleeping with Sister Xianxia, and I can even touch your tits." Leng Yulan giggled. Her words caused Xianxia to involuntarily conjure up that beautiful scene. After answering the two girls' cultivation problems, Xianxia quickly went to cultivate. He had asked Leng Yulan and Xianxia not to come so frequently because he needed to work hard to cultivate the demon subduing force. Very quickly, Xianxia stayed here for nearly a month. He still had one more day before he could leave. "Brother, what level are you on now?" "Sister Xianxia and I are both on the 2nd level now," Leng Yulan asked quietly. It had been 5 days since Xianxia and her came here. Xianxia smiled. "The 9th. I think I'll reach the 10th by tonight. It is very easy for me to learn." Hearing Xianxia's words, Leng Yulan and Xianxia couldn't help but be stunned. The 10th level was a place that even the principal couldn't reach. Even the strongest old fellows in the Demon Subduing Academy were only at the 8th floor, while Xianxia was on the 9th right now. "Brother is quite amazing. That is indeed my big brother." Leng Yulan felt extremely proud. She was very happy to have such a powerful brother. "Dear Xiang, you're such a freak. Having such a freak husband makes me feel a lot of pressure." Xianxia giggled, although she said that she was incomparably happy in mind. "Brother, the ranking tournament will start in a few days. Because the Demon Subduing Board was formulated by the principal at an early time, as more and more people enter the Demon Subduing Academy, he needs to make a new board based on strength. However, the rules of the ranking tournament seem so complicated for me to understand," Leng Yulan said while she scratched her white hair in pain. "I don't understand the rules either. It seems that only the principal knows the rules. As for the specifics, we just need to go compete in martial arts. However, we cannot participate in it. The primary group is for martial artists at the late stage of the spiritual martial realm and the early stage of the soul martial realm. The intermediate group is for those at the middle and late stage of the soul martial realm. The advanced group is for those at early and middle stage of the 100 refinement realm. And the pinnacle group is for those at the late stage of the 100 refinement realm," Xianxia said. Xianxia and the rest were all in the initial stages of the spiritual martial force. They really couldn't participate. "That is so unfair. Even though I am only in the early stage of the spiritual martial realm, I have beaten many warriors in the late stage. That group of dregs are all easy birds. Although their cultivation levels were high, their true chi and martial skills were not strong enough, and their flesh bodies are as fragile as tofu that crashes easily in a touch. Heh. I refuse to accept this." Leng Yulan was very dissatisfied with this rule. Xianxia clenched his fists and coldly laughed. "It's fine if we do not participate in it. We can challenge the guys on the demon subduing force one by one after the rank is done, and then ruthlessly stomp these guys under our feet, to let them know that the demon subduing board is only a bullshit." Leng Yulan immediately became excited. "Brother, we got the same idea. I want to work hard to cultivate my demon subduing force and reach to the 4th or 5th level. Then I will cripple that group of guys who dare to disrespect my achievements these past few days and refuse to sign me up for the tournament." Leng Yulan could defeat a warrior at the late stage of the spiritual martial realm, but she was not allowed to participate in the ranking tournament, which made her pretty mad. Even though Xianxia's performance was not as intense, she was also very angry in mind. Although she and Leng Yulan were both at the early stage of the spiritual martial realm, They were comparable to many warriors in the late stage. However, they were all rejected and were mocked by many people who asked them to go back and cultivate for a few more years. At this moment, Lang Yulan and Xianxia were both extremely excited. They were determined to learn the demon subduing force, since that was the only way for them to quickly increase their strength. After bidding farewell to Xiang, they hurried back. Xiang returned to the cave and lightly waved his hand at the stone wall. Clap, clap, clap. The sound of 9 thunderous rumbles rang out in succession. It was majestic and extremely frightening. However, it did not hit the stone wall. Xiang only released it and quickly put it away, which meant that he could control the force anyway as he wished. The 9 echoes of the demon subduing force corresponded to the 9th level of it. Xiang only knew that the formidable principle of the school was only at this level. He was confident that he could train to the 10th level in one day and then familiarize himself with the 10th level in a few days. Even the inside of Xiang's storage ring rang with thunderbolts. Su Meiyao and Bai Yuyu were both learning this martial skill. It would benefit them greatly. Once they recovered their strength, they would also be able to use this powerful martial technique. As soon as the sky brightened, a series of thunderous rumbles echoed in the cave. It was as if a sudden clap of thunder, extremely scary. Xiang had long used a formation to isolate the sounds inside, preventing them from spreading out. Otherwise, his secret training matter would definitely be known by others. The person who came to release Xiang was Chancellor Zhao Tao. He saw Xiang beaming with happiness, not the least like someone who had been locked up for a month. Zhao Tao stroked his beard in doubt, and the moment Xiang came out, he quickly left after exchanging a few pleasantries with him. A comprehensive preparation after Xiang returned to the small house halfway up the mountain. Xianxia and Lang Yulan both flew over and tightly hugged his bulky body. Xiang enjoyed a lot as he held the 2 fragrant, soft, and delicate bodies. Brother, go take a bath and change your clothes. Do you want me to rub your back? Lang Yulan laughed as she said. Well? Xiang glanced at Xianxia, only to hear her snorting, I'll do it then. Just like this. In the bath pool that was shrouded in mist, 2 extremely beautiful women in light clothes were gently rubbing Xiang's back. Xiang leaned against the edge of the bath, enjoying the massage by 2 pairs of delicate hands. Brother, did you really cultivate to the 10th level? Lang Yulan pulled the white towel, that had dropped a lot, in the front of her breast. She really wanted to remove the bindings that were in her way, but after Xianxia had told her many things about men and women for these days, she realized that this was an extremely shameful action. Xiang felt uncomfortable watching as he was tightly wrapped around by pairs of such big, jade rabbits. He really wanted to stroke and comfort the aggrieved rabbits, but he could only imagine that. After all, Xianxia was here and she had already agreed to his fare with Lu Menjie, so he did not dare to disobey her words. Of course, what about you? Xiang asked. We are in the 4th level. Big brother, you're really amazing. Lang Yulan pursed her lips and said. In this aspect, she was still far behind Xiang. She originally planned to increase her strength in a short period, then defeated Xiang. You are my sister, so I will definitely protect you in the future. Xiang touched her bulging face. He really wanted to embrace her into his hands. You mean forever? Lang Yulan gently caressed Xiang's chest, causing his heart to waver. Of course forever. Xiang smiled gently as he grabbed Lang Yulan's hands and gently stroked them. Lang Yulan looked at Xianxia and muttered. Sister Xianxia would be jealous if she sees that. It's better for me to protect myself. Xianxia laughed and patted Lang Yulan's plump butt, then scolded with a smile. You little goblin. I did not say anything as you seduce my husband in front of me. If I would be jealous, I wouldn't have let you take advantage of this bad guy all day long. I didn't take advantage of Yulan. Xiang said with an aggrieved expression. I know that both big brother and sister dote on me, so I want to become more powerful. In the future, I will protect you from being bullied by others. Lang Yulan hugged Xianxia and kissed her cheek. She had no relatives, and since both Xianxia and Xiang cared for her so much, she was very touched. In front of an acquaintance, she was indeed like a well-behaved and sensible little girl. However, when strangers met her, they would always be beaten by her even if their eyes were slightly dishonest, or at least be scolded by her. Xianxia already realized that Lang Yulan would definitely be Xianxia's woman in the future. She had already seen through it and could not say anything. She only let out a faint sigh because the three of them, a master and two disciples, would all be Xianxia's women in the future. At night, the two women hugged Xianxia and listened attentively as Xianxia taught them the Tai Chi divine technique. They had already started cultivating the Frostwind divine technique, which was a rather difficult martial art, so it wasn't difficult for them to learn Tai Chi divine technique right now. Brother, don't you know how those teachers looked when they learned that we have mastered the first level of demon subduing force? They opened their mouths so wide that they could swallow a duck egg. Haha. Lang Yulan hugged Xianxia's arm and used her impressive jade rabbits to clamp onto Xianxia's arm, making him feel uneasy. We're all in the fourth level now. If we tell those old fellows, they'll definitely be scared silly, even if we hold it secret. After the new demon subduing board is released, we will use this demon subduing force to defeat those guys and let them know how powerful we are. Xianxia laid on Xianxia's chest with an excited smile on her face. She had been with Lang Yulan for a long time. Although she was not as violent as Lang Yulan, she was still infected and became full of belligerent blood. Xianxia smiled and said, "Fine. In the next period we will do as usual. We will wait for the new demon subduing board to come out, then take the action." Lang Yulan said excitedly, "Brother, are you going to kill Zhongquan? You can't kill people within the demon subduing academy. Otherwise you will be severely punished." Xianxia frowned. His body had tensed up and his fists cracked loudly. His face was filled with rage. "I must kill him because he wanted to kill me. That will also remind Liao Xiaoyun and others who are thinking of me that I, Xianxia, am not a weakling. Whoever provokes me, I'll put him down. That's right. That's how it should be." Lang Yulan approved of Xianxia's words. "Be careful. I am always on your back." Xianxia kissed Xianxia's cheek. Lang Yulan saw it and did the same, but this was her first time kissing a man. This made Xianxia feel extremely happy. He said with a beautiful smile, "Go to sleep." Xianxia was currently the focal point of discussion within the school, because he made two strong foes not long after he got in the academy. One of them was Lu Xiong. Although Lu Xiong fainted quickly from Xianxia's actions, the power behind him was not simple either. The other person was Liao Xiaoyun. Liao Xiaoyun and Zhongquan were the top students in the Demon Subduing Academy. Many people were worried that Xianxia would be killed, but they didn't know that Xianxia would be able to sleep with two peerless beauties in his arms. Otherwise, they would be so jealous that they wouldn't be able to sleep. Because the ranking tournament of Demon Subduing Board had begun, the courses for the students were much more relaxed. On one hand, the academy wished students to learn some things from watching martial arts. On the other hand, there were so many martial artists participating in the ranking tournament that they were unable to attend classes. On the opposite, Xianxia, Lang Yulan and Xianxia rarely went to watch the tournament. They had very important things to do. Lang Yulan and Xianxia needed to learn the demon subduing force and Tai Chi divine technique, while Xianxia needed to master the demon subduing force and condense the divine leaves. Once he good medicinal ingredients, he could use the considerable amount of liquid of God of Creation to quickly plant them, and then refine them into those dan. After he successfully concocted the dan, it would become easier for him and his family to obtain strong powers. Therefore, this was also the area he needed to focus on. During these days, Lang Yulan and Xianxia had been training very hard, and Xianxia would properly give them the pure essence golden dan so that they could temper their true qi even denser while not affecting their foundations. Although their improvement was fast, they were cultivating in a special space. They stayed in there for a long time, so their foundations were very solid. Therefore, Xianxia was not worried about affecting them. The ranking tournament was extremely popular. Every time Xianxia and the girls went to a crowded place in the academy, they would hear many people talking about it, but they didn't care at all. Right now, they only needed to work hard to increase their strength, and when the results were out, They would challenge those on the demon-subduing board, then fiercely shame the academy. Both Xianxia and Lang Yulan had already mastered the Tai Chi divine technique. Right now, even without Xiang's guidance, they could still cultivate the demon-subduing force on their own. In order to calm himself down, to cultivate quietly and keep comprehending some of the suspicious parts of the demon-subduing force, Xiang did not sleep with the two girls. The demon-subduing force doesn't seem to be that simple. Xiang kept flipping through the book and reading the profound mantra incantations. Su Meiyao said after a long while, "That's right. There's still an 11th level of the demon-subduing force. I think that's the perfect state of this technique. I tried combining the mantra from the 1st to 10th level, and I seemed to feel something." Xiang closed his eyes as many mantra of the demon-subduing force appeared in his mind and conducted all sorts of arrangement. He tried for the entire night. When dawn arrived, he opened his eyes with a joyous expression on his face. There is indeed an 11th level, but it is very hard to cultivate. I have not yet grasped the essence of it. It will take some time. In the following period of time, he immersed himself in studying the 11th level of the demon-subduing force. He knew that it was the most powerful part of the technique, but he did not know what would happen after he reached that level. "Brother, I have something to talk to you. Hurry up. Open the door." Lang Yulan slightly knocked the door. A few days ago, Xiang had told her and Xianxia that he was about to cultivate and should not be disturbed. Now that there must be something emergent happened for Lang Yulan to come for him in such a hurry. After Xiang opened the door, Lang Yulan somewhat sadly say, "Brother, that guy called Qian Liguang died. I remember that he was in the same college as you, and he had a good relationship with the brat Xiaoqiu. It was him who told my sister Xianxia about what happened to you in the classroom last time." Xiang frowned. Qian Liguang was a good person. He didn't submit to evil forces, and he was the only person in the academy who dared to make friends with Xiang. While Xiang had already taken him as a friend, but he died. Zhong Quan killed him. In the ranking tournament, Xianxia walked over and lightly sighed. He died a terrible way. Qian Liguang was in the late stage of spiritual martial realm and was in the same group with Zhong Quan, so it was normal for them to encounter in the tournament. However, Xiang knew that people couldn't impose heavy attacks in the ranking tournament. Xiang closed his eyes and sucked in a deep breath of air. With a trembling voice, he said, "Zhong Quan, I promise you will not get any rankings in the tournament. Brother, where are you going?" "I'll go with you." Lang Yulan could feel Xiang's anger. She knew what he was going to do. Xiang stopped his footsteps and calmly said, "Yulan, maybe after today, I won't be able to stay at the demon-subduing academy. You should listen to Xianxia and study hard on martial arts that deal with demons and goblins." Even though Xianxia and Lang Yulan were very close to Xiang, their master was Lu Menger. Moreover, they didn't have any grudges against others, so Xiang wouldn't be worried about dragging them down. Lang Yulan really wanted to go with Xiang, but she knew that she should not bother him right now, so she could only sigh. Xianxia didn't say anything. She knew that Xiang would have a fight Zhong Quan soon or later, but she didn't think that it would come so early. After Xiang left the house, he asked Long Shui to use her spirit traveling in the Nine Heavens technique to search for Zhong Quan. At this moment, the sky was already dark, so he guessed that Zhong Quan should be in his house. "You don't have much time. You have to finish off Zhong Quan before those old fellows from the academy arrive," Su Meiyao said. Xiang's cultivation was far inferior to that of Zhong Quan, but his divine techniques and divine weapons were enough for him to fight against him. He is in the martial field. It did not take long for Long Shui to find Zhong Quan. "It can't be better." Xiang ran towards the martial field, while Lang Yulan and Xianxia secretly followed behind him. There were a lot of people in the martial field, but only the formation of the largest circular field in the middle opened up. Zhong Quan was standing right on top of it. There were a lot of blood stains on the stage, as well as some pieces of flesh that stuck to the ground. All of them looked new, which indicated how heavy Zhong Quan's attack was. Zhong Quan was wearing a set of white clothes and crossed his hands behind his back. He was arrogantly standing in the middle of the martial stage. His pair of white boots were full of blood stains, making him very eye-catching. Humph! No one dares to come up? I didn't expect that the guys in the same group as me are all cowards. Wasn't it just because I stomp on a guy to death that scare you guys like this? A bunch of trash. Zhong Quan's eyes were filled with disdain as he swept his gaze across those who wanted to come up but didn't dare to. Chen Xiang lightly said, "I'll do it." When the people heard this voice that was filled with endless killing intent, everyone couldn't help but tremble. They looked towards the direction the voice came from and saw Chen Xiang walking over. He looked extremely calm, but it gave people a feeling that his heart was filled with raging killing intent. As Chen Xiang walked towards the stage, the oppressive atmosphere became more and more intense. With every step Chen Xiang took, killing intent raised up, causing people to feel cold and afraid. Chen Xiang, you are not a participant of the ranking tournament. You can't go up. An old man with white hair suddenly walked over and stopped Chen Xiang. I'm challenging him. Is that not allowed? Chen Xiang's eyes were filled with killing intent as he turned his head and eyed on the old man. Two freezing waves of killing intent caused the old man to uncontrollably retreat a few steps. Zhong Quan coldly smiled and said, "Chen Xiang, you really have the guts to come and die. I have slaughtered the only person in the academy who dares to be your friend, and his flesh was still stuck onto my boots. Ha ha! A guy who overestimates himself was actually attempting to stand up for you." Chen Xiang's body trembled as the muscles on his face violently twitched. He clenched his fists tightly as his nails dug into the flesh of his palm, causing blood to flow out. This showed how terrifying the rage he was currently enduring. Today's part of the ranking tournament is over. They can do whatever they want. A lazy but ice-cold voice came from the distance. It was Yu Baixiang. He just felt a strong killing intent and rushed over. Chen Xiang was already on the martial field as he coldly stared at Zhong Quan. His eyes were filled with lethal lights. A dense killing intent was continuously emitted from his body and rose up into the air above the martial field. Zhong Quan disdainfully snorted, "The aura is a bullshit. You must get strong fists. Zhong Quan, I am here to challenge you. It will be a battle of life and death." Chen Xiang took a deep breath and said in a low voice, "I can't wish for anything better. Brother Liao has been wishing for you to die for a long time now." Zhong Quan did not take Chen Xiang serious at all. Last time he kicked Chen Xiang to vomit blood just in one go, so Chen Xiang was only an ant in his eyes. Besides, he killed Chen Liguang merely to enrage Chen Xiang. Just like what Chen Xiang thought, Zhong Quan and Liao Xiaoyun were on good terms. This time, Chen Xiang came prepared. He had already released his black tortoise armament armor and concealed it under his skin. On his fists were a pair of white tiger gloves. He wanted to use the hands of God of Slaughter to strengthen him force, and if necessary, he would use the Azure Dragon subduing Demon Slayer. Whatever the price, he wanted to kill Zhong Quan anyway. Seeing that Chen Xiang was going to have a life and death battle with Zhong Quan, many people showed disdain on their faces. Especially those students who wanted to befriend Zhong Quan. They mocked Chen Xiang even more. What does he think he is? He is just in the early stage of spiritual martial realm. How dares he try to defeat Zhong Quan, who is in the early stage of soul martial realm? Zhong Quan was someone with an important thunder soul. That sort of thing is even rarer than a fire soul. Humph, that's simply a self-overestimation. He is just courting his death. Zhong Quan will definitely kill this guy just like how he trampled Chen Liguang to death. I heard that the guy, Chen Liguang, was beaten to the ground by Zhong Quan in just one punch. How could he still dare to come? Zhong Quan is young, and he has cultivated his demon-subduing force to the second level. This fellow definitely comes here to terminate his life. If it was me, I would prefer staying with the two beauties. I heard that he counts on women to get all the things he has today. Xianxia and Leng Yulan frowned as they heard those comments aside. If Xianxia was not present, the few people who spoke would have been scolded to death by Leng Yulan. Just as Chen Xiang was about to make his move, several powerful auras suddenly appeared. He saw the Chancellor Zhao Tao came here with an old lady who had white hair and soft skin. Behind them were a few old men with white hair. Xiang clenched his fist. He knew that those people were summoned there by Yu Baixiang. The old lady was the principal of the demon-subduing academy. She was an extremely powerful person who even intimated the fire god shrine. The people who came with her were all old guys from the academy, and all of them were at the 7th or 8th level of the Nirvana tribulation. Even Liao Xiaoyun had come as well. With such a group of people, Xianxia knew that it would be much harder for him to kill Zhongquan. Even if he had the strength to defeat Zhongquan, with these experts watching from the side, he would definitely be stopped in a critical moment. Zhongquan was young and talented. A rare and powerful thunder soul allowed him to improve without any bottlenecks on his cultivation path. At the same time, it also allowed him to grasp an extremely terrifying power of lightning. He was an extraordinary genius in the demon-subduing academy. It was not a flatter to call him the strongest young martial artist in the world. Zhongquan indeed had the proficiency to be arrogant, but Xianxia couldn't understand why such a person would be so close to Liao Xiaoyun. Furthermore, he was even willing to follow Liao Xiaoyun's orders. It seemed to him that there must be some secrets between them. Well, it seems like I cannot kill you today. Zhongquan was also very unhappy at that moment. He really wanted to kill Xianxia, but such a group of people might stop him when he acted. The principal and chancellor came over. They did not say anything, only standing and watching with serious expressions. When he saw the flesh on Zhongquan's boots, Xianxia's heart of slaughter suddenly jumped up. His fury soared, burning his blood and causing his entire body to boil with endless anger. The wild and violent heaven and earth flames surged out from his body and hair. Hot and tyrannical air waves with killing intent spread to all the direction, scorching people extremely in fear. However, these people also shivered from the cold killing intent. Whatever, I am going to kill you today. Whoever stops me will be the enemy for the rest of my life. As long as I, Xianxia, still have a breath left, I will not rest until he or I die. Xianxia's rampant and furious words reverberated throughout the martial field, causing everyone to be dumbstruck, because he undoubtedly said that to those old fellows from the academy. He actually dared to threaten the principal. How arrogant he was! Anger appeared on the white and elastic face of the principal. She would not look like an elder person if without a head of snow-white hair, but would only look like a middle-aged person. Ha ha! What a reckless guy! Zhongquan felt like he had just heard the funniest joke. His laughter suddenly stopped, while his body disappeared. The crowd immediately held their breaths as they stared at the blazing Xianxia. They knew that Zhongquan had started attacking. Zhongquan moved fast and his attacks were tyrannical. This was something that many people saw. Pa! An explosive sound rang out, and the space seemed to ripple. It was actually a demon-subduing force that suddenly flew towards Xianxia, and as it passed through, it caused the air to vibrate, as if the entire space had received a ripple. That kind of force was also extremely shocking, and it even brought a violent lightning aura, causing one's heart to beat wildly, as if they were about to be bombarded by that power. Zhongquan used the demon-subduing force in the very beginning. Just as many people thought that Xianxia's body would explode out a bloody hole, another pa sound rang out. Out of everyone's expectation, it was also the demon-subduing force. Xianxia used his demon-subduing force to block the incoming demon-subduing force, and his power was much stronger than that of his foe, causing two invisible forces to collide with each other, then forming a shockwave of air force. However, this shockwave blew towards Zhongquan, who was beside Xianxia. Many people were speechless with their mouths agape. They all knew that Xianxia had only been in the demon-subduing academy for more than a month, and he was imprisoned in a cave for a month. At that time, he was even injured by Zhongquan, but now he had actually learned the first level of the demon-subduing force. From the way Xianxia instantly released his demon-subduing force, he must have already mastered the technique. Yu Baixiang also opened his eyes wide as he stared at Xianxia in disbelief. He remembered that Xianxia only attended one of his classes, but now he had already mastered the demon-subduing force. Those old guys from the demon-subduing academy had been studying the demon-subduing power for many years, but it was the first time they saw someone learning it so fast like what Xianxia did. To be able to possess such a powerful strength, Xianxia could be either very lucky or born with gifts, but no one was born to be able to learn such a profound and difficult martial art. For example, Zhongquan was pretty talented, but just like the others, he had been learning the demon-subduing force for many years, while the furthest point he could reach was merely the second level. Of course, when Xianxia and Lang Yulan told their teacher that they had learned the second level a few days earlier, it also caused a sensation among the management of the demon-subduing academy. The people in the management were not able to make heads or tails of it. Zhongquan sneered. So it turns out that you just happened to learn the demon-subduing power, and that's why you dare to act arrogantly. Although he said that, Zhongquan was also astonished and jealous. He understood the pain of learning the demon-subduing force. If it wasn't for the fact that he could use this martial art to deal with demons and goblin, he would not have bothered to learn it. He had also spent a lot of time on it, otherwise he believed that he would have at least reached the 100 refinement realm. As he spoke, Zhongquan waved his hand as fast as lightning. With another pa sound, he released his demon-subduing force again. At the same time, he moved at an extremely fast speed, making people feel as if he had disappeared. As the demon-subduing force stroked towards Xianxia, he did not release another demon-subduing force to dock it, but directly took it with his hands. Right now, he had a very thorough understanding of this martial art. Even those old guys from the Demon Fighter Academy were not as proficient in it as he was. So he used the mysterious features of Tai Chi Dragon subduing technique to easily dissolve the power of the demon-subduing force. Seeing how easily Xianxia was able to disperse the powerful demon-subduing force, those old guys immediately learnt that Xianxia might have grasped the knack of demon-subduing force. Even though Xianxia was only at the spiritual martial realm, the various things that Xianxia did in the mortal martial realm made it impossible for them to ignore him, so they had some understanding of Xianxia. Moreover, Xianxia and Lang Yulan lived together with him. They could learn to the second level of demon-subduing force within only 2 months, which meant that there must be a connection between them. Zhongquan originally planned to quickly move around and continuously release his demon-subduing force towards Xianxia. He wanted to see how Xianxia would block it, but he didn't expect Xianxia to be able to destroy his formidable demon-subduing force with a single palm. However, Zhongquan did not stop just because of this. Instead, he continued to release his demon-subduing force in the distance, causing it to rain down on Xianxia. The series of explosive pa-pa sounds caused many of the students who had not learned the demon-subduing force to be pretty envious. Xianxia sneered as many arms suddenly appeared behind his back. It was as if he had 3 heads and 6 arms as he blocked the flying demon-subduing force. He now discovered one of Zhongquan's weaknesses. That was, Zhongquan didn't possess many formidable martial arts. It took a long time to master a powerful martial skill, not to mention many of them. Xianxia's martial arts were all taught by Yu and Su Meiyao via divine sense, allowing him to immediately master them with ease. So he's had a solid foundation in martial arts, and later, he learned the 9 revolving dragon divine technique, Tai Chi dragon subduing technique, Black Tortoise body strengthening technique, and Devil suppression divine technique, which made his foundation even more solid. He had already learned the 10th level of demon subduing force. Moreover, he even approached the perfection stage of the demon subduing force. Thus he was least afraid of this martial art. He laughed furtively as Zhongquan used it to attack him. Even though your cultivation is at the early stage of the soul martial realm, your true chi is not strong enough and your foundation is not solid. You only have strong explosive power, but if you keep it up, what's more, you don't have any powerful martial arts to support you. Xianxia was only injured by Zhongquan because he wasn't paying attention last time. But now that he was prepared, he could see Zhongquan's weak point. Even though Xianxia was furious and wanted nothing more than to kill Zhongquan, he could still remain calm. Anger and hatred can stimulate a person's power, but they can make people lose their sanity. As for Xianxia, although his strength had been stimulated by anger and hatred, he had not lost his rationality. This was the scariest part of it. Seeing that Xianxia was able to calmly analyze Zhongquan's weaknesses, those who thought that Xianxia overestimated himself just now were unable to say anything, Instead, it was Zhongquan who became angry, because his attack did not work and he did not dare to approach Xianxia. This made him extremely anxious, and Xianxia's words even strongly struck his heart. If Xianxia didn't have any concerns, he could take some Dan and quickly break through to the 100 refinement realm. However, he would need more time to stabilize his foundation, or he might never be able to stabilize it if he pushed that fast. Enough for you. Zhongquan let out a cold shout and a flash appeared behind Xianxia, then threw a heavy punch at him. The fist flashed with lightning in all directions, brightening up the dark martial field. This wild and violent lightning punch even changed the color of the sky and earth. The crowd held their breaths as they watched. They could imagine that Xianxia was beaten with his blood and flesh splattering everywhere. The fist violently smashed into Xianxia's chest. However, his body did not explode. Instead, Xianxia turned into a mist of air. The violent fist power surged out from the fist like a peerless bolt of lightning striking on the ground of the martial. Water mirror technique. It was a supreme movement technique in the Black Tortoise Divine technique. When a cultivator tried to escape, he or she could instantly condense an illusionary image that is exactly the same as his own using the water vapor. Everyone was stunned because they saw Xianxia appearing behind Zhongquan. Xianxia's fist rushed forward and with a pa sound, true qi in his body surged and gathered into the power of a dragon. In the end, it turned into a demon-subduing force that shot out and landed on Zhongquan's back. Puff! The blood in Zhongquan's body churned and an arrow of blood shot out from his mouth. The demon-subduing force had entered his body and created a powerful explosion. However, his body contained an even more violent thunder attribute true qi, which instantly suppressed the terrifying demon-subduing force. Zhongquan vomited blood from Xianxia's blows. No one could ever believe it, but they had just witnessed it with their own eyes. Just as Xianxia said, Zhongquan did not learn any powerful martial arts. Although his attack power and speed were very formidable, his defense was extremely bad. Once he exposed an opening, he would be dealt a fatal blow. Xianxia had been trained by Huang Jintian and had experienced hundreds of battles. He had fought with Huang Jintian in all sorts of battles and had always been beaten to the point of suffering a fate worse than death. Therefore, his battle experience was very instructive. He could conduct calm analysis and make accurate judgment during battles, then granted a fatal strike to the enemies. Zhongquan just circulated the true qi in his body to quickly dodge Xianxia's attack, but Xianxia didn't give him the chance. He threw out another punch. Pa pa! Another 2 consecutive explosive sounds caused everyone to be tongue-tied, as if they were carved from stone, because that was the consecutive explosion of the second level of demon-subduing force. These 2 echoes were twice as powerful as one. Zhongquan's true qi was instantly dispersed by the impact of this demon-subduing power. Xianxia sneered. The demon-fighting force was released through his hand of slaughter and became even more powerful. Zhongquan had just vomited out a large pool of blood, but 3 more popping sounds came again. It was actually 3 echoes. Other than Leng Yulan and Xianxia, everyone else believed that they had misheard. They did not expect that Xianxia had cultivated his demon-subduing power to the 3rd level that was featured by 3 sounds as he released it. Zhongquan's back was currently facing Xianxia, but his back had already been shattered by Xianxia's demon-subduing force. His internal organs had been shattered to the point that they could no longer be broken. Only now did Xianxia know how powerful the demon-subduing force was. However, Zhongquan's body was so weak that he frowned on it, because he could not try out how powerful the demon-subduing force was. Just as everyone was stunned by Xianxia's 3 sounds of demon-subduing power, another series of explosions, pa 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 pa, rang out, causing people to feel as if they were struck by lightning, and their entire body trembled. That was the 4th level of demon-subduing force. There were only a few people on the demon-subduing board who could reach the 3rd level of demon-subduing force, but Xianxia had already reached the 4th level. Zhongquan had been knocked to the ground by the 4 echoes of the demon-subduing force. His entire back was shattered. Enough! The principal took a deep breath. As if Xianxia was able to cultivate to the 4th layer, he must have grasped the trick. This made her extremely surprised. At the same time, she wanted to know what the trick was. Xianxia looked at the old woman and frowned. He said earlier that he would kill Zhongquan today. Don't test me. The old woman's voice was cold. She was the principal of the Demon Subduing Academy, the ruler of this place. No one could resist her. Xianxia looked at Zhongquan, who was lying on the ground. He clenched his fists and stomped on Zhongquan's body. At the same time, he circulated the demon subduing force. Pa 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 pa. 10 consecutive thunderbolts suddenly exploded out. This was the 10th level of demon subduing force. Even the principal could not make it, but Xianxia had already reached the point. As Xianxia trampled Zhongquan's body with his 10th level of demon subduing force, the tyrannical power infilled into Zhongquan's body, causing his body to explode immediately. The dispersing blood mist and falling flesh deeply shocked everyone's heart. All sorts of shock rushed into people's hearts at the same time, making it difficult to breathe. Xianxia actually defied the principal and even learned the 10th level of demon subduing force. He instantly released 10 echoes of demon subduing force, causing the world's strongest expert to shatter after a single stomp. The crowd couldn't help but shiver as they looked at the bloody flesh falling down. The people who mocked and ridiculed Xianxia earlier now had a bad taste in their hearts. Not only did Xianxia kill Zhongquan, he also trained his demon subduing force to the 10th level. Of course, just like what he did just now, even if he didn't use the power of the 10th level of demon subduing force, he could still kill Zhongquan. He did this to show off and let others know that he was even more of a genius than Zhongquan. Yu Baixiang was very clear that he had never explained more than the 2nd level, but Xianxia had learned the 10th, which meant that Xianxia was self-taught without an instructor, which was the most shocking thing to those old guys in the academy. Even they were able to learn it back then through careful guidance from others. However, not only did Xianxia learn it in a short 1 month, he also reached to the highest level. The power released by Xianxia, who was merely at the early stage of spiritual martial realm, was stronger than that by a warrior at soul martial realm. The principal clenched her fists because Xianxia disobeyed her orders and even killed Zhongquan in front of her. She was the principal here and was in charge of the entire academy. After the demon subduing academy came to the mortal martial world, her strength alone could help the academy intimidate everyone, but now her majesty was challenged by a little brat. Arrest him! The principal could not care how Xianxia learned the 10th level of demon subduing force. She only thought that she had been slapped in the face. There were some people who viewed their face more important than their lives. After the principal gave the order, Yu Baixiang and Zhao Tao appeared behind Xianxia and grabbed his arms, preventing him from moving. However, Xianxia had a calm expression as he fearlessly said, "How come you do that? You killed someone. That's a violation to the rules of the academy." The principal was even more furious. Even at this moment, Xianxia was still unwilling to lower his head to her. It is a life and death battle, and he agreed to it on himself. Many people here have seen it. I seem to recall that the Demon Subduing Academy has a rule saying that if there was a great enmity, ones could engage in a life and death battle. Xianxia lightly said, "Cut the crap. Arrest him and put him in the dungeon." The principal bellowed. "Humph, the principal of Demon Subduing Academy is just like this. I was still praising the strictness of the rules of this academy. But now it seems like the rules here all depend on one's mood. Don't forget, I just said that if someone stops me from killing Zhongquan, then that person will be my biggest enemy, and I will fight him to the death." Xianxia's gaze turned cold as he solemnly said. The principal frowned. She could not help but killing Xianxia with her palm, but she could not do that. According to her understanding of Xianxia, he was Huang Jintian's disciple and the junior master of the 3 giants of extreme martial. If Xianxia were to die, then Demon Subduing Academy would be disregarded by the extreme martial sect to seek revenge, and that would not make up for the losses. Pa! 2 explosions rang out as Liao Xiaoyun suddenly appeared in front of Xianxia, landing a punch on his abdomen, causing 2 explosions of demon subduing force. Although it was only the 1st level of demon subduing force with Liao Xiaoyun's strength, it was still extremely powerful. "You?" Xianxia felt a sweetness in his throat as he swallowed the blood that was gushing out. Thankfully, he understood the demon subduing force very well, and was able to instantly dissolve the energy that entered his body. Otherwise, he would have been lying down already. He has contradicted the principle for many times. This is disrespect towards the principle and a violation to the Academy's rules. Liao Xiaoyun coldly looked at Xianxia and sinisterly said, "As the person who keeps order with the school, I have the authority to put you down. Well done. Put Xianxia in the dungeon." The principal was very appreciative of Liao Xiaoyun's actions. He gave a loud praise and shouted, "Old Granny, Xianxia, will not rest until you die. Don't look down a young man." Even though Xianxia's voice was calm, his fury and killing intent could still be felt by others. He knew that Xianxia was a very big threat. Previously, he hadn't been worried, but after seeing Xianxia's strength increasing day by day and gradually approaching him, he couldn't sit still. He had to get rid of Xianxia, regardless of everything. Although the principal was furious, she knew that she would have many opportunities to punish Xianxia in the future, so she endured. What made her unhappy was that Xianxia had learned the 10th level of demon subduing force, but she only reached the 9th after so many years of cultivation. Xianxia was taken away and locked in a dungeon. There was a powerful array inside it, making it very difficult for him to escape. "Little bro, how did you end up in here?" An old man from the cage next to Xianxia asked. "I defied the old woman, scolded her, contradicted her, and threatened her. That should be enough." Xianxia grunted. "The old woman is always that. She always violates the Academy's rules, but she always uses those rules to punish the people she doesn't like. This is how I was imprisoned by her for 300 years. The old man said bitterly. 300 years. Xianxia was secretly surprised. He looked at the people in the cage and saw that most of them were rather strong. There were even some in the Nirvana realm. This caused Xianxia to have the thought that he was going to let out all of the people in this dungeon. Even though there were no guards, there were many powerful formations inside. It would be difficult for those who had entered the Nirvana realm break out of the formations, not to mention Xianxia. However, Xianxia knew that a formation could not be broken by forceful attacks. If one was proficient in formations, then no matter how weak he would still be able to break out of it. "Grandpa, who is the strongest person locked up here? How did they get in here?" Xianxia asked. "Humph, I am the most powerful one, and I was the former principal. That old woman teamed up with those old fellows to restrain me and then locked me in here, just because I violated the rules by killing a student." The old man who was talking to Xianxia earlier said angrily. Xianxia was given a fright by the old man. Even the former principal was imprisoned here, so he knew how powerful that old woman was. "What's the old woman's name?" "Her name doesn't seem to be disclosed." Xianxia asked. "Her name is Lu Yufeng. She's just a bitch. I wonder how she managed to get on good terms with the Demon Suppression Divine Shrine in the Heavenly Realm. She is very powerful," the old man said. Xianxia did not believe him. Seeing the suspicious look in his eyes, the old man struck out with his palm, striking the iron cage and exploding out with consecutive 10 echoes. That was the 10th level of the demon subduing force. Even that old woman has not reached to the 10th level of demon subduing force, has she? The old man said proudly. This made many people in the cage look at him with envy and respect. The 10th level of demon subduing force was a dream for them.